It's not every go with the ingredients.
Why?
I'm happy to help. It's not sitting down hard all that. It's so the same. Yeah.
Okay, good morning. This is Senate Natural Resources and Energy, and this is Friday, February 6th. Yeah. Happy Friday. We're gonna start with a new draft of S212, which I think is pretty close to being done, maybe not totally done. I sent our legislative council some edits and then remembered like, oh, maybe there's actually one. But we'll at least start with what we've got. So, welcome, Mr. Green. All right, thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Michael Grady with the council. You should all have a draft in front of you with a draft number 221 dated 2/6/26 and the 8:45 a.m. timestamp. And I'm just gonna go to the changed language. You may recall that your last review of this bill, you discussed you discussed the general permit and whether or not those fees needed to be tiered based on the size and scope of the connection. So that is on page 11 of your draft. The chair sent some language or sent the tiers that would be set based on design flow and using language that's already built into the fee section for potable water supply and wastewater section permits. I created what's on page 11, lines 9 through 17. So original applications are major amendments for coverage under a potable water supply or wastewater system connection general permit. Shall have a following fee according to the highest proposed design flow wastewater or water for the connection. Design flows below 2,000 gallons per day, it's $350 per application. Design flows of between 2,000 and 6,500 gallons per day. It's $2,500 per application. When the design flows greater than 6,500 gallons per day, it's $5,000 per application.
I think there's one change in there. I think that 350 is supposed to be 250.
Okay.
And which the only reason I am remembering that now is because it was less than the 306.25 that single family homes have now or something.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries. Sorry, I didn't catch that too. Comments on? Yes.
I just have a question on page 9. The municipal fee. So the municipalities may charge a fee for the technical reviews. And may charge a fee for the cost of municipal services. But they have to pay $100 to the secretary, to the state, the municipality has to pay $100 to the
Yeah,
state.
remember, part of the concern about delegation is ensuring that the land records have documentation of a permit, because recall, does everybody remember Bianchi versus Lawrence or Hunter Broadcasting versus South Burlington? Everybody know what that means?
Yes. Sort
Okay.
of.
All right, so Bianchi versus Lawrence was a Vermont Supreme Court case that said failure to get a municipal permit was a blight on your title, so that when you went to sell your home or your property, that it could affect your ability to get title insurance and therefore affect your ability to transfer property. And it could affect the ability of your attorney's license who failed to note that during the conveyance. Well, the subsequent court decision was Hunter Broadcasting versus South Burlington. And that said, state permits are also a failure to obtain state permits as a blight on your title. You legislated away Bianchi, but you didn't legislate away Hunter Broadcasting. So failure to obtain a state permit is a blight on your title and can affect your ability to convey your property. Now, the way that has been addressed is that there's the A&R permitting database where you can go to get those permits that don't run with the land. But most permits run with land, and so they should be in your land records. And that became an issue when you went to universal jurisdiction, you said A&R being the sole entity issuing local water supply and wastewater permits. Because before then, every clerk did it differently in every municipality, and it was a chore for title attorneys and real estate attorneys to find themselves. Now there's
Right,
and
and that's part of what we're trying to preserve
to
here.
ensure that document goes into the land records and into the A&R database. You have them submit to A&R. A&R is going to have some staff time that will be devoted to that, and so $100 per filing is to account for that.
So, okay, that's very helpful. So the municipality could theoretically charge $300 to get the permit from the municipality for the connection and review. And then the municipality pays 100 of that to the state. Is that how it works?
Right, I would assume the municipality is going to assume this fee into the fee that they charge.
Yeah, the $100 would be part of that fee,
Right.
and then they would just, okay.
There is no limit on the municipal fee as
And
well.
we don't have to set it. We being the legislature.
I think you don't set municipal fees, you set state fees.
Okay, so the things that, just as an example, in another bill we're working on, the land posting, that $5 fee. That's technically a state fee, but the municipality is collecting it.
So is the clerk allowed to collect $5 for a registration form?
Yeah.
Right, that is a fee where you have set
Okay.
those municipal. What the clerks can charge for recording documentation,
Yeah,
that's historically been something that.
and I think dog license fees we actually set too,
Well,
so.
yes, that's true, but they can go higher than that. That's the minimum, that's the minimum. The dog license fees, there's a range of them. There you can even have a range of cat license fees there, I think only sell.
Cat licensing? Oh, I didn't know that thing.
I think only a couple of towns do that.
Okay,
Really?
all right, the point being is we don't have to set the municipal fee, they can figure it out, but
So many reasons.
And the fees could be significant.
we've lost all of that.
I just want to say the municipal fee could be significant because it could be a tool in their toolbox for directing where development goes in their towns.
And if the town takes this stuff over, we've already established that it's not gonna be that many towns, cause it's hard stuff. But, or we think. But if a town takes this over, does it mean that only the town does it? Like somebody living in a town that takes this over can't be like, oh, actually, I'd rather work with the state. Do it.
It would be the town's jurisdiction,
Okay.
that'll be part of the delegation agreement that A&R and the town enter into.
Okay.
But remember, you say as condition of this partial delegation that they have to incorporate into their standards the A&R general permit. So those are the same standards. Plus, they have to give deference to the licensed designer as is being given to the general permit that A&R
Yeah,
is issuing. Which is has been a concept in this program deference since 2006 or around that. And so that's not really cheating, you just want to ensure that the deference that's going to be provided runs through all of these permits, even if there's delegations,
okay, thanks.
So I have a couple of things that I wanted to ask about. So one in this draft is on page 5. Lines 3 to 4, the secretary may adopt general permitting programs for other activities that require a permit under this section. So this was sort of the other general permits. And as we talked about it the other day, I just forgot to add in my email to you, forgot to add, because we had talked about potentially adding language that was like, that clarified that this was specifically for simple, low complexity conditions.
Yes, and I'm trying to find, there's language like that, in a couple of different programs. And I'm trying to think of one that I can easily get to. Hold on a second.
Okie dokie.
Mm, Yeah, I'm not finding what I'm looking for, but basically you're looking for low impact activities. And I would find language that I can
Okay.
send to you.
Is that, yes,
So what are some of the other activities, a couple of examples of other activities that like fall under this?
well, maybe we could, I was gonna say we have Mr. Redmond here. But unless you,
I prefer Brian.
For the record, Brian Redmond, Director for Drinking Water and Groundwater Protection Division. The two examples that I provided to the committee last week were subdivision of land, one that legislative council mentioned originally. And then again, we don't have any specific plans, but we are looking at ways to identify low risk, low complexity projects. So another example, and probably a more routine example, could be a very small scale in-ground wastewater septic system. Low design flow, generally no pump stations, no advanced treatment, very simple and straightforward. So that's an area that we would probably evaluate for low risk.
Low back to the onsite.
Correct, and that's part of these regulations is that the full scope includes on-site wastewater.
Okay.
will say, I do have a question about that. Can you say more about the subdivision of land? Because it feels like not a water related thing, but how, yeah, can you just say more about that?
Yeah, it's a permit trigger under the statute and, typically where we see and maybe my can contribute to this too, is often when a subdivision of land occurs, there's a requirement to have a replacement area for your wastewater system. And from a technical perspective, that's often what we're looking at to make sure that the subdivision doesn't impact the ability for the existing system to function appropriately, as well as any future replacement area in the event that the system or supply fails.
Yes, go ahead.
I think I mentioned this last time, but I would feel more comfortable if we actually included the words low risk and low complexity.
Yes, that's
in
exactly,
here.
That's what you.
yeah.
Oh, is that what you just said?
Well,
Sorry.
no, that's okay, no, that's the spirit of. what we're
Yeah,
doing.
just so it's clear that these can't be other more complicated things.
So just on the subdivision, there were instances prior to the permit requirement for it where people were subdividing, creating lots that weren't able to either meet the standards or weren't able to meet the basement standards. So in order to ensure that people weren't basically subdividing into what's called the best bets, which is a standard not necessarily that meets the state standard, there's a requirement that there be review of that subdivision.
Okay, that's very helpful. Making that connection between why subdivision would affect the water, wastewater. So, but I think if we add something like low risk and low complexity, that covers the kinds of examples that you gave. Is that
Low risk, low impact,
low
low complexity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I would recommend as determined by the department, because part of our framework for developing a general permit is going through that analysis of what qualifies as low risk, low complexity, low impact.
I'm okay with that if you all are okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, right, like how do you determine or define low complexity? And then there's one other thing that we have Mr. Weiss here with us. This morning he provided some testimony written that's posted. So I just wanted to highlight another one of his comments, which was related to page 4, line 16. The phrase, line 16, a designer licensed under this chapter. The question was, that these engineers are not licensed under OPR. And so, I mean, his recommendation is just to say, certified by a licensed designer.
That's fine.
I think accomplishes
Yeah.
the same, the goal. That really, okay, great. So, and I think that phrase occurs a couple of times.
It's actually page 7.
So you say this phrase.
Well, page 7 on draft form.
Could you say your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry, Thomas Weiss.
Yeah.
Civil engineer, resident builder.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I mean, and you may be on a different, a different version than what we're looking at right now.
No, it's page 7, line 8.
Oh, yep. So just by a licensed designer. Yes,
On that back on page 4, that paragraph, A1. I had in my notes that we've gotten some, I think Brian Redmond said this, that they would retain the right to review complex projects and do audits. And I asked, should we be explicit to include this authority that they can review complex projects and audit projects? Am I recalling your testimony correctly, or that's what I had written down here?
well, I mean, I can say what my recollection was of that too, but do you want, can I go to you, Mr. Redmond?
Sure. For the record, Brian Redmond, that is line 15, the may give deference. The legislative council gave the example of certain type of these connection projects are not uniform. There may be a class of projects that the agency would provide individual review. That was the example that was given, and then I added the example. With any general permitting program, we would like to be able to audit the program periodically.
Right.
And generally randomly. And the best way for us to do that is to perform an individual review of the application.
Right, and I thought, that we might wanna say that they can audit, this is,
They build that language into their general permit.
oh, it's in the, okay. So you don't think it's necessary to put it in here, okay,
I think the general permit will go out for review, public notice and comment. There'll be opportunity for we'll review it. It will have. I'm really sure it will have language on the ability for them to require an independent review of an application.
okay. It's not as bad. Thank you. Thanks.
I'm gonna go here and then, from here.
What are we doing? So this flipping the words designer licensed and licensed designer?
It will be
Under,
licensed designer is a term of art under this, and it means. It means a licensed engineer, Mr. Rice, or a site designer or people that get certified to do design of these systems. That's what a licensed designer is.
and I think it also gets rid of the phrase under this chapter.
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying less, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
When you get rid of under this chapter,
okay.
make it make sense.
So,
And then, since we're, because I think that was all the things that I had on my radar. But since we've got a little time. Ms. Warren, do you want to introduce yourself for the record?
Thank you. So I'm Karen Horning. I'm working with Green Mountain Water Environment Association. And I believe you received an email from Harry Shepherd and Stowe this morning regarding the manual that's also at the bottom of the floor. And it says the manual shall include standards for determining the defining capacity of the public water system and pollution treatment facility. But we just need you to be aware that if that were a requirement that municipalities determine capacity, that would be a considerable new expense and burden for municipalities. It's not something that's easily determined at this point, and it took still close to a year. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to note that part of the delegation is that on page 8, lines 1 through 3. Condition of the delegation is that they only issue permits for water service lines and sanitary sewer service lines when there is adequate capacity in the system.
Yeah.
So there, what we don't want to end up having to do is an analysis of the capacity of the entire system. Because that's a very expensive and time-consuming proposition.
is this question?
Yes, go ahead.
I don't know how all this stuff works, so, if you don't know, if one doesn't know the capacity of the system, how do they know if they can add a line to that system? How do they know where the breaking point is?
They know in general, and I'm not the expert.
Neither of us really know.
I need better ideas, but they don't know the entire capacity of every system. There are places in towns in Vermont where they don't know where all the water lines go.
Yeah.
Or the age of the water lines, so it's a balancing act at this point.
Since we're taking since I've opened the can of worms.
Yeah, well, I just wonder if Brian has any comments about that.
Sure, and then I would also love to go to Mr. Groveman.
Oh, okay.
Director Brian Redmond, so one of the big findings of the Act 47 stakeholder group. Was a group of individuals, public works directors, engineering consultants, environmental organizations. One of the big findings and discussion points of that group, when we really analyzed this question of municipal water and sewer connections, was around this issue of capacity. And the capacity to serve, and Mr. O'Grady has said, our requirements for a new connection require that there's adequate capacity to serve. But one of the big findings of that report was that capacity to serve means different things to different people. And there's no real unified definition of what it means to have it and what it means not to have it. And as Warren just said, it is generally aware of if there is capacity to serve. But there's a big difference between a water line from 1900 and a documentation that the water supply can serve the flow required, right? So issues around aged infrastructure, and a myriad of issues. So I think part of this requirement that's currently in the bill and what we were planning to do, I spoke about the $50,000 appropriation from last legislative session to contract out to have this, to have the standards for connections really documented and brought forward in a more, standardized way, more pictures, less words. To start navigating and putting some definition around this system capacity issue. And so that's what I believe is in the bill here is for the agency to continue that work. It's part of our design manual.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yeah, thank you. So Director John Groban, policy, water program director for BNRC. Yeah, I mean, this is really, I was on the study group, and Brian, I agree with what Brian said completely. We talked about this a lot. And to Senator Hardy's point, it was like, we're not looking to burden people with expenses, but we need to get a handle on this issue of capacity. So at the very least, if we're doing this bill, it just seems we should make some progress, and maybe the $50,000 in the study will get us down the road. But I do think we have to get to a point where we know where the pipes are, right, for all the towns, and that your point, Senator Hardy, exactly. I was gonna say, at some point you don't know, like at some point, like when do you not know? Like we were fortunate enough, I guess, that I don't think we have such capacity. Defining capacity as enough water to give to people who want to get drinking water and enough wastewater treatment capacity for people who want to hook up and get treated. I don't think we have systems that are that close, but someday we will be, and that we've debated this idea for years now. This always comes up, and it's just not a good answer to say, well, we generally know, we don't specifically know. So I certainly support what Brian said, but I think if the bill could just recognize that we need to eventually get to the point where we're identifying what the capacity limits are, and then we could, if we know just basic planning, then we can help fix them. Like it's the only way we're going to know what the capital improvements that we need, know what kind of infrastructure money that we need to ask the federal government for, when hopefully one day we have a functional federal government that's providing infrastructure money. Like it just seems like belts and suspenders. Like so we're not looking to burden people, but I would be comfortable with like if that's what the agency is going to do. But I just want to note that we have to get to this point where we know what the capacity limits are, because we're going to hit them one day, and we have hit them, not for I think the amount of water or treatment, but we have hit them. And Harry said this in the group that we had. There are like collection. There are places in Stowe. I remember very distinctly. He was like, we have enough wastewater treatment capacity, but we can't get the wastewater from here to there. And people don't know that though. So people get very frustrated because they're like, hey, we just want to hook up. And they're like, and then this municipality's like, well, you really can't, because we don't have that type of capacity. So I just think it serves the public better, and it's good planning, So anyway, that's all like I'm really advocating for, is that while we're doing this bill, we crack that we at least try to make some strides.
Yeah.
So the manual is guidance. So, and that's where the instruction or the determination or definition of capacity will be set forth. So those guides, it won't be binding. If there's gonna be anything that's binding, it will be in the general permit, and the general permit is required to go out for notice and comment. So Stowe or whomever will have the ability to provide comment if there's anything that's required in the general permit about determining capacity.
So the fact that it's not binding, I think is very helpful. I'm wondering about adding a sentence that would go after. That sentence that starts at the bottom line for the manual shall include these standards. Something like these standards shall account for the fact that many municipalities don't know what is under the ground, or something like that. I mean, maybe that's too vague.
Where are you?
Oh, so
Bottom page 4, line.
Yeah,
18,
but you-
down to page 4.
you're not looking at. I'm just trying to say like, in a way, like what should municipalities do when they don't know what they've got? Yeah.
For the
You wanna-
record, Brian Redmond. I would want the opportunity to think a little bit more and provide some recommendations and perhaps work with the Green Mountain Water Environment. I think in general, municipalities do know.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that might be a little overstated. I think the bigger issue is really defining what it means to have it and not to have it, and putting these standards around it and exploring the issue of, for example, water pressure.
Right.
Aged infrastructure, that pump station that was mentioned earlier. And really kind of sussing out what that capacity determination, the considerations municipalities, applicants and consultants should evaluate when determining if they do in fact have capacity to make the connection.
Good.
Is it, I'm just thinking of the word standard versus guidance. Standard feels more required and guidance feels more recommended. Would changing it from standards to guidance be okay, or are you wanting standards?
I had the same question. I'm gonna defer to you.
I think you can, if you really want to be clear that it's not mandatory, go to guidance.
Yeah, that seems more,
Yeah.
is that a good compromise?
What do you think, Ms. One?
But I think that would be helpful. Our real concern was that it not be a binding requirement of the municipalities at this point in time. And I've also heard that the conversation around the standards is one that needs to happen. Agreeing with Mr. Brothman doesn't happen that often, but.
Well, I mean, you're not with the LPT anymore, we can agree, you know? We could put all that behind us. And I'm willing to, I mean.
There you go.
It's water through the pipes, you guys.
Okay, so changing the word,
Page 4, line 19, standards, just change the guidance.
yep, I think. And that works for you, Mr. Whitman? Okay, fantastic, thank you, yeah, for sure. Okay.
Looks like we're really close on this.
We are really close. I'm feeling pretty good on this. And we have you
So 10:30.
till 10:30, which is a long time.
So if
So,
you go do that.
well, theoretically, we do have somebody else coming in at 10:15. No, on the auditor's audit memorandum on energy, BDS. Mr. Weiss, maybe you have an opportunity since you're here. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thomas Weiss, again, civil engineer, Montpelier. I have one more comment that is based more on problems with the language than on any of the other things that I put out. And that's in this proposed manual. The manual is intended to provide now guidance for the general permit. And the purpose of the general permit is for connections to a potable water supply and to a wastewater system. The text of the report asks for determining the capacity or starting towards determining the capacity for a public water system, not a potable water supply, and for a pollution abatement facility, not for a wastewater system. So my suggestion is to change those terms that are in the report section to match the terms that are in the general permit.
Do you mean the manual? By report, do you mean the manual?
Right, it will be on lines.
Page 4, line 20. But
Yeah.
connections, I mean, I'll defer to Brian, but these connections are to public water systems or pollution abatement facilities. They're not to a wastewater treatment system.
Well, the wastewater system is defined to include the treatment facility and all the pipes and the pump stations and everything else. And to me, an abatement facility is just the treatment plant.
No, it's as it's defined, it includes everything. It includes all the connections and spaces.
So it's defined elsewhere in a different statute.
Yes,
Okay, because I did not find definitions for them in this statute.
it's
So that's okay, I can look it up, but if it's there, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't leaving things out in the report that are required by the general permit.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, I think we're gonna take a break to allow Mr. Grady to go do some drafting. And Mr. Grady, you think it's reasonable to think that you could go draft this and come back to us? Maybe, how much time do you think you need?
I can do it in 20 minutes.
Okay, so come back at 10:05.
Sure.
Okay.
Then you.
Yes, and then I think we will have 10 minutes to go through the changes and potentially move. Amazing. That would be phenomenal. I didn't think we were gonna do it.
I took it off
Here
the
we
agenda.
are. We get back on the agenda. Amazing. That's right. All right. So we've got a break till 10:05. How many extras do you
I have right now 7.
have? Seven extras.
We
So,
don't,
oh, we do, okay, never mind, that's
I'm
good.
just gonna put it on the list,
Okay,
Okay.
it's on the website.
just because people started, yes, me.
Yep, yep, I think that's fair.
Sorry.
No, thank you for that, appreciate that. Where is central fund governance? Yeah, if you use I'm sure they may. I just think it's more.
I'm gonna post it on the website right now, so. For those who want to follow, just a minute. I don't know where he is.
Okay,
I saw them outside of the house chamber.
Outside of the house, Jen.
No, house chamber.
I'd like
House
upstairs.
chamber?
In the chair, yeah.
Oh,
I was on my way down.
okay.
I'm very comfortable.
Curious, okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, are we are unmuted? Yep. Okay, amazing, alright, so this is, the natural resources and energy, and, yes. So we're coming back from a break, we have a new draft of S212. And I'll turn it over to our legislative council to walk us through the changes.
This is Mike McGrady, just focusing on the changes. You can go to page 4. At the bottom of the page, line 16 through 17. The first change, line 16, is the change that they're always pointed out. Instead of it saying license under this chapter, it says certified by licensed designer. And as you discussed earlier, a licensed designer is a term under this chapter. On page 4, line 19, to address the concerns raised by Ms. Horn and the town of Stowe about creating standards for determining capacity. It's been changed to the manual shown from guidance for determining or defining the capacity of the public water system.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then on page 5, with regard to the discretionary authority of the secretary to adopt general permits for other permits under the program, and say the secretary may adopt general permitting programs for other activities that require a permit under this section that the secretary determines are low risk, low impact, or low complexity.
Just wanted to pause there. Senator Bonner.
Just as a. I'm sure you thought about floor or pans.
I did. I did. And
I was thinking that too.
I was not sure. I also tried it out in the middle of the sentence, but it just didn't read right. And I didn't know. I didn't know the answer.
Because you could, theoretically, when I tried to, it could be low complexity but high risk.
Yeah.
Do we want an and in there, or do you want
Could you live with an and?
I apologize, I was on the previous section.
Oh, okay, sorry, so.
to?
Well, actually, before we go on, did you have any thoughts or comments about anything we've talked about so far? We're good?
Yes.
Okay.
Like the line 19 was a question, but we're good.
Okay, great. And so we're looking at page 5. 2 lines 2 and 3.
Should it be and?
That's the question. Could you live with an and there?
Yes, that is.
Okay, that would be fabulous.
Okay, should I move on?
Yes, please.
Page 7. This is again changing the language about license under this chapter to licensed designer.
Yeah.
And then last, page 11, in the fees, changing 350 to 250 for those systems or connection with its design flow below 2,000 gallons per day per application.
Okay. Any further comments or questions about this before we move on to a vote?
And we vote changing that one word.
Yeah, you can vote,
Contingent.
that change.
Well, we can go.
Oh, that's right, we do need a motion, yes.
I move that we approve draft 4 of the 12.
You mean 6.1?
Yeah,
6.1, yes, it's 4 because I've been working mine, which is.
Oh, I see.
You're right. 6.1.
Accurate.
This is, it's not a committee, okay. Dated, 2/6 at 9:46. And with a singular contingency or the 90 page of A5, line 3, changing the word to can.
Okay. We don't need a second.
No.
Okay. Okay, so with that, clerk can call roll.
Senator Beck, yes. Senator Baumgartner.
Yes.
Senator Hurdy.
Yes.
Senator Williams.
Yes.
And Senator Watson.
Yes. Super, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
because it has fees, it will go to finance. Is it okay if I refer this to Jeff, so that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And who's ever.
I think it's gonna be me.
Right.
Yeah. All right, thank you, everybody. Super nice. Yes, yes. he did that, right? No, I don't think so.
Paul, is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't?
You were on this afternoon, but I want to drive.
Oh, definitely.
I'll try this afternoon.
Okay.
Just setting up for
We just have everything else. Before you go, Mr. Grady,
Some of
do you think that this is gonna go to appropriations as well?
I see the city.
I don't think.
Okay, so we are changing topics, and we, a little while ago saw an, memo from the auditor about, energy related to, buildings and general services. And we have folks from BGS here with us, so, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you'd like to, I don't know if you want to go one at a time, well, come together, or how you'd like to do this, and all go.
Okay, we'll both sit together.
Sure, that's great.
You have to accept that, are you cold? So, yeah, you have to accept, I let you in the meeting, I'll make you co-host so you can share the slides.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Super, thank you for being here. Questions, I think, this is your all's first time being here, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe we take a minute to go around the room and introduce ourselves, and then we'll let you introduce yourselves, and then take it.
Great. Hi, I'm Senator Ruth Hardy from the Addison District.
Terry Williams from Rutland District,
In Washington District.
Seth Bonus from the Bennington District, Scott Knight from the Allen District.
Hi, I'm Emily Kisicki. I'm Deputy Commissioner of Buildings and General Services.
Good morning, Brian Sewell, the State Energy Program Manager of Department of Buildings and General Services.
Great, go right ahead, yes.
So we have put together a brief presentation. We saw we were slotted for 15 minutes, so we're trying to keep it concise for you. And we're happy to come back or stay longer at your pleasure. Just to start with a very brief overview of our program for those who might not be familiar. BGS houses an energy office, which I would like to call small but mighty. So it was established after Act 178 in 2014, which set up the program. We refer to it as STEM, State Energy Management Program, which really started out with 2 revolving funds that were put into place to facilitate energy efficiency measures and increase the use of renewable energy in state facilities. There's some legislative history that I won't run through on here, but some of the highlights really are that the program envisions a partnership with Efficiency Vermont for this work. There are requirements in statute for the savings that we are required to achieve in energy savings annually. The program consists of 4 main staff. There are 2 administrative staff, which is Brian and a coordinator. And then there are 2 for program implementation. These are project managers that are right now they're housed in our design and construction division. And so there's some cross collaboration between the energy office folks and those construction focused project managers. There are also 3 other staff that recently joined the energy office to implement the MERC Municipal Energy Resilience Program. I wanted to highlight there's hyperlinks in our presentation to annual reports. That's in the left side blue column. We do annual reporting on the program. That's a joint report with Efficiency Vermont, as well as performance of those revolving funds. So happy to walk through those, send copies if the hyperlinks aren't working for you, or talk about them in detail. We also have some other responsibilities associated with this small and mighty energy office, which includes EVs, deployment throughout the state, and then again, MERC, which I highlighted, and it's a big new program for us that we're very proud of.
Thank you, Emily. So for our process, this slide just highlights a really quick run through of the 3 main steps. The first one is data tracking and analysis. We use Energy Star Portfolio Manager as our tool to collect all the utility bills, so electricity, fuel, and so forth. That information kind of helps us determine which buildings are considered poor performers. They're leaky, right? They have a high energy use per square foot. So the step 2 is to go out and conduct an energy audit of that facility. And so that can be anywhere from 2 hours to a full day or multi-day, depending on the size of the facility. And recently we've been trying to tackle some of the correctional facilities because they are some of the biggest energy users that are also very difficult to work in. About 3 million square feet is state owned, another 1 million in lease space. I know the audit talked about lease space, and we will go into some details on that a little bit later. And then really the last step is implementing projects. So the Deputy Commissioner mentioned those 2 project managers under design and construction. They are the staff that work to implement what the audit recommends as measures. So new lights, new insulation, new heating system, etc.
Moving into the audit report. So the auditor's office announced an audit of the program last February. Just want to say at the top, we really appreciated working with their office. We felt like it was a collaborative and productive process. They requested data from 2016 to 2025, and some really detailed, granular level data that Brian worked with them to provide. They issued their report back in the end of January. There's a hyperlink to the report, but I imagine you might have a copy already. to very briefly summarize, it made several findings about deficiencies in the program and recommendations on how to improve. We provided a response to those findings. It's included in the report as Appendix 5. As just like a high level overview, we generally agreed with their findings and recommendations, and we responded with our planned steps and timelines to address those deficiencies that they highlighted. Some of those key areas of deficiency that they covered in the report dealt with how we track and address energy use for facilities that aren't owned by BGS. So BGS does not own all state facilities. The other sort of major property owners include AOT and ANR. And that we weren't tracking and addressing energy use for fuel use by vehicles. There were some findings around how we verify energy savings data. The number of energy efficiency projects that we've completed, particularly in recent years, and we'll go into, why it's been low over the last few years, and then how we establish our baselines and report on progress towards the state agency energy program goals.
So as the Deputy Commissioner highlighted, one of the key items included data tracking and analysis. And as far as portfolio manager is concerned, we are able to go in and edit accounts that we have control over, but we rely on our partner agency staff and department staff to update their accounts as well. We know that takes time. There's a burden, right, to adding all this information every month. And so part of this is we're committed to looking at other ways that we can improve our data collection process. Currently, Portfolio Manager is free. We have been looking into options that would include a software as a service license. That would need to also include an examination of what budget resources are available. That would give us extra capabilities, but it would come with a cost. And then there are measurement and verification scopes of work that can go beyond what is currently used right now. So we do a spot check after the projects are completed. Yes, we install these measures, but as we all know, installed and then over time, set points can change. People get comfortable in a building, and so they'll have maintenance change the temperature, and we don't always know. And so then measures aren't necessarily performing the way they were installed. And so to go to the next level of measurement and verification would also require additional resources, which we can look into how that would impact the program to hire out for additional, contractors that go in and do that specific verification work. So the SAEP is the report that the auditors mentioned needing to get back on track. Totally agree. We want to submit that on the biannual schedule. We also want to look at opportunities to update the reporting requirements and the program requirements, because 2014 is a while back now, right? And we know a lot has changed.
Before we go on, so for that SAEP, first of all, SAEP is an acronym. State
Agency Energy Plan.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, and then we'll have a 26 report prepared for release by the end of 27, and then that would get you back on track for at least the most recent biennium.
That's correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
So on the next slide, one of the other areas was what we sort of teed up with the SAP, the State Agency Energy Plan, is updating program statute and baselines. So one of the things that the audit mentioned is that baselines don't exist in some cases, and in some statutes, they don't line up with the same goal. I think there are a number of things that have changed over the years about the state's emissions reduction targets, savings targets. And so what we want to do is work with our partner agencies like AOT and ANR to find out, okay, where can we improve our measures of success, right? Is saving $150,000 a year, which is the current target, does that really line up with getting us on track to our overall state goals? Does that need to shift? Because that hasn't been changed since 2014. They also mentioned project bundling and meeting overall savings requirements. We agree that there was an example that they mentioned of combining 2 buildings under one project, which we typically don't do. That was a one-off, and we acknowledge that's not in keeping with best practices. So part of our reevaluation is going to look at talking with our design and construction team, how can we update our standard operating procedures? I will mention that one-off hasn't happened before or since. So we do generally try not to do that.
Just to add though, so currently statute requires that every single measure meet those savings requirements. And so at times we have tried to bundle projects to reduce disruption from construction projects and then have some greater efficiencies gained through multiple measures. And so that was one of the findings, was that when we bundled, in the example that they gave, every single measure didn't meet that individual savings requirement. And so that is inconsistent with statute. And so that's an area where, now we'll address that by revising our procedures, but then also look at and evaluate whether there are any recommendations to be made around allowing for bundling where it can provide some efficiencies.
Can you, I apologize, can you describe what it is that you're bundling? Is it the accountability for different types of measures, or if you could go into that just a little bit.
So things like changing out lights to LEDs, right? That has a pretty quick payback on that investment. Replacing a boiler or a facility heating system or facility-wide cooling system, that takes a little bit more time. And so what we would do is look at the audit recommendation, which is sort of the, doctor's report for the building, soup to nuts. Yep, you need more insulation here, change out your lights, all the way through, you gotta replace this heating system, it's on its last couple of years. That's really expensive. These will pay back faster by bundling measures together. One, as the deputy commissioner mentioned, we save on construction costs because we're not going back doing the lights this year, doing the installation next year. You try and bundle it together, and some of the measures that pay back faster help make the overall loan package for that project more attractive. So it helps ensure that we're also getting done some of the critical infrastructure upgrades that are more expensive.
Yes, good.
And so just to continue then, and the problem is,
It's inconsistent with statute that individual measures must meet yearly savings thresholds
okay,
under our revolving fund programs.
so how do you ever do, get it, understand what you're saying, correctly, how do you ever do something like a boiler then?
It becomes very difficult, and we don't want to leave those items, on the table, because they also come with a lot of emissions reduction targets if we're able to fuel switch from oil to biomass or to supplement.
Less expensive to operate because the other ones.
And that's exactly what Brian was sort of reviewing when he said we want to look at the program and make sure that the language that was put in place back in 2014 is still consistent with our goals. So certainly cost savings goals, and that is a stated goal of the program, energy cost savings goals, and that's important. But then, there are those larger projects that can provide efficiencies and energy reductions that might not necessarily meet those requirements for cost savings, at least in those early years. So it might be more of a life cycle savings than that first year savings, and that's where we're seeing some challenges.
I just want to asterisk, I have a high interest in that. So would love to collaborate, if that's useful. So anyway, for the future.
So on the next slide, there are 3 other areas. The first one was staffing. So the deputy commissioner mentioned that the audit talked about the reduction in number of projects completed, especially in recent years. There have been significant staffing challenges regarding specifically those 2 project manager positions. We are really pleased to announce that we have both of those positions filled as of January 2026. So we did a lot of energy audits during COVID. It's kind of a nice time because the buildings are empty, so you can move a lot faster. But those haven't translated into completed projects yet. So there's a pipeline of projects that we want to get moving with these 2 new staff on board. But there were almost 2 years where we didn't have project managers available.
So it's the dedicated project managers and then other BGS staff too. And again, not trying to make excuses, just noting, the design and construction division has been, focused on like flood response, other priorities. And so unfortunately, again, this is an area where with staffing constraints and then just capacity constraints, we're not doing the projects the level of projects that is desirable, but we're really not just in case the spills. That we'll be able to move forward.
Probably also not a surprise, costs of projects went way up, after COVID.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you guys get ARPA money for some of these projects though, or not? I remember putting ARPA money to something like this, but
It's for the MERP program.
it's for the MERP program, okay,
Which is,
the municipal program, okay.
And does that still have money in it, or is it all expended?
It is all obligated.
So if we wanted any, I assume there's more demand. One could imagine trying to recapitalize that at some point, but if it came from ARPA, that's. Yes.
The audit also mentioned, working to improve, efficiency in lease space. That has been part of the program since 2014, but it's been really difficult, to get private property owners to standardize lease agreements. That's something that I think our Director of Planning and Property Management would also agree that it's been a challenge, but last year we did start working with our property management team and leasing agents to at least begin the data collection process, so we can understand a little bit more how these leases vary, and they do vary from, you know, the mom and pop property owner all the way up to major companies that we are trying to standardize practices of collecting energy data, and then how do we implement projects in buildings that we don't own. It does get complicated, but we are committed to working with our leasing team to figure that out.
Are you encountering any resistance to being able to access that data from landlords?
I think I'll let our,
I'm not aware of any resistance. I think it's probably just, again, a challenge, getting data in a form that is, easy to standardize. And then I'll say too, again, we've had procedures in place since 2014, but have fallen short really on implementing those and making sure that there really is a focus on the lease space. And just in terms of prioritization, have been focusing again those dollars for projects on state-owned infrastructure. But in response to the audit, we're committed to looking at those procedures again, making sure that they're updated as needed, and then ways that we can better implement them.
then the last one on this slide is regarding vehicle emissions. So we've had updates at BGS Fleet Management. We know that there are probably some coordination items that we can improve upon in terms of collecting vehicle emission data and fuel use. So part of the commitment as a response to the audit is to work with our fleet team to do a better job collecting and understanding the vehicle emission data, as well as continuing to deploy electric vehicle supply equipment, charging stations at state facilities as part of the state's overall goal of reducing transportation emissions.
That's good.
The $150,000 energy savings, was that just for BGS buildings, or was that supposed to be for all state buildings?
For any project that we implement through the program in a state building.
Okay, 150 was, I thought it was an annual number.
It is.
It is an
That's
annual, okay, so it would include AOT.
If we're doing
AOT particular project there,
Yeah.
okay. But I understand it's hard when you're not overseeing those properties.
And same thing with vehicles, BGS oversees sort of the passenger fleet, but we don't have jurisdiction over all state vehicles. And so as noted, we will work to coordinate with AOT and other agencies, departments that manage vehicles directly to try to better capture fuel use data.
The statute that you are trying to meet with the energy savings, that just applies to BGS and not to AOT, let's say?
The program is under BGS.
Under BGS.
So we administer the program and those two revolving funds.
So at this point, AOT is under no obligation to find energy savings to meet, well, I mean, I know we have perhaps other statutes that might apply, but yeah, sorry.
So, Madam Chair, if I can offer an example, so in the earlier years of the SEM, the State Energy Management Program, We had like fish hatcheries with A&R take advantage of our revolving loan for to do efficiency upgrades. There are some AOT projects that we've worked with them on their facilities. We stopped getting applications, I noticed in the files from A&R, and we asked, and they said, oh, we ended up getting our own budget line item to do some of this work. So they stopped needing to rely on the loan fund that we have, but they were still working on their own projects. So these funds are available to work with other state agencies, but they might also be, I'm sure they are working on projects on their own facilities as well.
Okay, and they're, the number of applications to use those, I assume that the revolving loan fund monies has slowed down.
We do have a project pipeline. It has slowed for a couple of reasons, even within the buildings that we own and manage because of staffing, but also project costs exceeding what the savings, right? If the savings are what they are and the fuel price isn't really changing when you're lining up that loan, but the contractor comes back with 2x, 3x labor costs and other things, design fees, right? We build a contingency, but sometimes that's not meeting their new labor rates. It's very difficult to get a project approved within the required payback. So we want items to pay back within the life of the equipment. And then with regards to the fund under the treasurer's office, they have a maximum amount that we can borrow.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
But I think it's fair to say we're the largest user of this.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So we just had a few closing thoughts that are sort of outside the scope of the audit that we just wanted to share updates about our program, if that's okay, but we're happy to stay on audit findings if you have more questions.
Let's do this and then we can.
Okay,
Go to
okay.
questions.
So we wanted to highlight again, some of the other work, that the SEP does now. I'll let you go.
In 2019, we launched a pilot program for flexible load management. This is the first of its kind. It's really trying to match our energy use at facilities with the time on the grid where renewables like solar are really peaking. So we know that the way energy use works is we've got that curve and a lot of things come on towards the end of the day. That's the most expensive energy you're going to buy from the grid. And so if we can shift the energy use earlier in the day by preheating or pre-cooling buildings and then turning motors off, you can coast, keep comfort level where it needs to be, but that's a primary concern for the folks in the building. But you're really reducing your energy use by a significant amount, and you can get paid credits back for participating. Green Mountain Power worked with us on peak notification. So with really an investment of $38,500 to upgrade some software, allow the existing building technology to communicate with the peak notification alerts that the utility sends out, we can start saving thousands of dollars every year. And that's for as long as we participate in the program, and it's already paid itself back. Which is a really good example of something new. It wasn't probably envisioned in 2014 when they were designing the program. It's not quite the same as changing out lights, but there are real savings there. And there are emission reductions with that as well, because the peaking hours are some of the dirtiest hours on the grid. So that was an example we wanted to highlight. We're continuing to enroll new buildings. We started with Waterbury. We've enrolled Brattleboro, Bennington, 133 State, and we're continuing to look at other opportunities to bring buildings into that project. Fuel switching. So when we looked at the Middlesex Central Services building in 2016, our audit indicated that the oil system was at end of life. And even though it really leveraged a lot of the SMRF fund, the goal here was also to get the facility off of oil and transition to biomass as part of the state's, emissions reduction target. So we wanted to be able to have the flexibility to work towards both goals, get savings. The project does pay for itself over the life of the equipment, but also has some carbon reduction involved as well. And then last, on transportation emissions, we're working with Fleet. We've gotten I think 2 or 3 rounds of one-time money for the implementation of charging stations. We are continuing to roll those out. So when I joined BGS in 2019, we had about 8 stations. We're up to 35 and counting. And we know from the internet connected capabilities, we can monitor charging sessions and how they're being used and recover costs with adjustments to our cost recovery rate. So there's a lot of things that have changed in the energy space since 2014, and the program, I think, can be flexible enough to try and meet some of those changes. But perhaps there's also an opportunity to update some of the statutory requirements.
Some examples of those charging stations, Brian was talking about a rate, or on Governor 8 now that we put in, so. Lastly, we just wanted to highlight the MERT program. Again, this was a new significant program that was put under the Energy Office. I think Brian has copies of where the projects are located. If you're interested in a listing, we have the maps that show where the projects were located. What was the total funding through ARPA funds?
So we had $35.9 million dedicated to projects. We got plenty of applications in, and we awarded 126 municipalities for a total of 246 buildings. That's every dollar obligated across the state. And with the applications we received, there's another 90 towns and $33 million in unfunded efficiency projects from the auditing process that we went through. So we did conduct assessments at 531 municipal buildings in a year, which was a pretty significant amount of work, but it's what allowed us to look at all of the need across these towns.
And there is again, a hyperlink on here to the MERT annual report. And it's also filed on the legislative website, the report section for how they provide it directly to, which is hard to locate. So just a parting thought, again, the audit, we view it as a learning opportunity. You know, we welcome feedback, and it's time for a good conversation about this program, and you know, how we can make it better, both internally and whether there are any sort of guidelines that we should update.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this just,
They are individualized, so we
okay, I was like.
divided them up by
I
your.
was gonna say, I think I have your list.
Oh, well,
That's amazing. Okay.
Thank you, wow, it's personalized.
When folks see the map, usually the first question, it's my question too, is,
Yes.
okay, what about my town?
Yes, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
This, yes, go ahead.
So if you could take a snapshot in time, right now, to do all the building for the project you have, do you have any kind of fiscal measure, see what you need?
For state facilities,
Rather than throwing out a guess, I would probably come back with a more specific
I'm
estimate.
just
Yeah.
curious. Because the longer we wait, the more expensive it's gonna be.
Right.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. I guess I want to express my gratitude for your participation with the auditor, for like accepting the feedback, for, you know, identifying like, all right, so these are ways that things can change. I think that's fabulous. And also, I'm hearing you that there's a need to relook at the statute, to make some adjustments, and I'm here next year, which is flagged, like, I would love to collaborate on again what that should look like.
When were these awards handed out?
Board obligations were signed December 2024. And then they have until the end of this year. The state has until the end of this year to expend all funds. So we have been doing quarterly project check-ins by town with the RPCs to make sure they stay on track.
what do you mean 25?
They were issued in December
25.
25 or 20?
No, obligated 24, December 2024 is when we signed all the agreements, and yeah. And then last year, we had historic review, took the first 6 months to get every project through that process. So that brought us to June 25, which is when we really started to see.
18 months. Okay.
Yeah,
And this is all ARPA money,
that's correct.
okay. And then to Senator Watson's point about the changes in the statute, you're still working on that, you don't have anything for us right now to.
We don't have any proposals, ready at this time. You know, that was one of our commitments in the audit response, and it was something we were already starting to talk about. What needs updating, and it was sort of, the conversation is now being pushed, like, we're really taking a deep look at the program. And so again, we don't have any formal recommendations ready at this time, but think that it's a good time for conversation about updates.
Super. Any further comments or questions? Okay, thank you so much. Really
Thank you.
delightful to see the projects that are happening. So, there you go. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna transition. We're a little bit behind schedule, but still we've got 45 minutes, which is not, I can't tell. And we got
About this for 45 minutes.
if you want less, that's okay too. But we have Deputy Commissioner Kamen with us. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody. It's very nice to see you all. I would love to plug in. Can someone plug me aware that such a thing exists?
It's on the, it's on the, it's
Under your, I think we have a correspondent up here.
It's under,
do you think that there was a couple minute break?
And I'm gonna do this because I absolutely.
Okay, great.
You know, I'll just jump in on this when need be. I won't, log in for it. So, all right. Good morning, everybody, and for the record, so my name is Neil Hamlin. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of DEC. We've done that before. I appreciate my first visit with you all, although I've spoken to a number of you kind of over the course of the fall and so forth, and really appreciate that. I think nominally my task today is to report back to you based on a letter you received from Auditor Hoffer having to do with dam safety. So I'm fully prepared to do that. And I think on the schedule also is some remarks around S213, which Senator Hardy is your bill on metering. So I invited Mr. Redmond to join me on that as well. I'm somewhat read in and he's more read in. It's had a lot of dialogue, so happy to do that. And then if there's time, the chair wishes, we could talk about any other topics that you might want to ask me about, and I have one to propose having to do with the city problems.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we'll take it away.
Great, okay, so let's talk about the dam audit. You'll have received a letter from Auditor Hoffer a few days ago. The department wasn't copied on the letter, so we had no idea until Jude reached out and asked us to come on down and provide testimony. Of course, we're happy to do that at any time. It kind of took us a little by surprise, and so I see a couple of you reading Secretary Moore's response to the auditor. Because we have done, the auditor is right, we have not promulgated the phase 2 rules that are required. The phase 2 rules for dam safety are going to be the rules that essentially say that if you own a dam and you need to maintain the dam, there are certain specifications that you will need to adhere to. How a dam is built, how it is maintained. So the phase 1 rules went into effect back in 2022. Right at the same time as the audit subject to this letter was completed for us. And we had successfully promulgated the phase 1 rules, and what those do is they refine exactly how we determine how safe or unsafe a dam is, or how much risk that dam does or does not pose. And understand those are two different things. A dam could be in exquisitely perfect condition, but still be a very high hazard facility were it to fail, right? Which is why we're doing a lot of work on our our big dams like Wrightsville and Waterbury. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So those dam safety rules defined, how we determine risk, how we determine condition, how often an owner is required to go confirm the condition of the dam, and how often the owner is required to assess the quality of the dam. Phase 2 rules will dictate exactly what the owner needs to do with technical specificity. So actual engineering specifications. Think the stormwater manual. It's going to be that kind of rulemaking. So they're big rules and they're complex, and because there are about 900 privately owned dams out there. There are about 900 owners out there that will be affected in one way or the other by these rules, so it's worth doing it right. And it doesn't mean that our program has gone slowly in doing it. So let me talk a little bit before I get to the schedule for implementing these rules, but just to fast forward, we'll be filing ICAR this summer for those rules. So, but I'll be happy to show you the entire schedule, the Gantt chart and everything. But beforehand, I kind of want to go to the defense of the team and what they've worked on and what they've done. So we promulgated those rules in 2022. At that time, as a result of ARPA funding provided in 2021, the program had just barely grown from 2 full-time staff. I'll let you think about that for a moment. 2 full-time staff to manage 100 state-owned dams, our major flood control facilities, and 1,000 regulated dams in the state. Let that sink in. We went from 2 to 2 permanent positions plus 3 limited service positions that came from ARPA and from a $5 million appropriation of dollars associated with their general fund, but they were freed up by all those ARPA dollars, and it was an opportunity to make the investment in the dam safety program, which is great. So we got them all on staff, but we got it all started, and then July of 2023 happened. You will all remember, if you live in this area right here, what the news was about the possible overtopping of the Wrightsville Reservoir. The actual precise terminology would be that the water would rise high enough to access the auxiliary emergency spillway, which is purpose-built for that reason. But that was big news, right? And there were a lot of dams, small dams, that got damaged out there. And our team during 2023 had to be on site monitoring Wrightsville, Eastbury, and Waterbury. So 3 licensed PEs, 3 major dams to be monitored during the flood, right? So that was a big thing. And then all of the follow-up that happened as a result of 2023, in order to help owners who are seeking assistance from FEMA to recover, right? So damage assessments, specifications for what they would need to do. Anyway, you've heard us talk about 2023 before. And of course, then 2024 happened, right? And so wash, rinse, repeat, a similar set of circumstances. And in addition to that, throughout my tenure, so I've had the opportunity to interact with committees in the building back since 2018 when I was asked to serve in the leadership team as a policy advisor, right? And one of the things that Secretary Moore felt really strongly about, and that we have forthrightly pursued, is to right-size the dam safety program to the magnitude of the needs. And the needs are really significant. It's not simply making rules. There's a lot more that they're doing. So in addition to those ARPA dollars, the tail of projects that need capital investment or maintenance and operation investment is substantial. We provide testimony to the capital committees on that on a regular basis. And the capital committees answer, and they provide funding to make safe Vermont's own dams. We have really significant projects going on. The biggest is the Waterbury Dam Spillway Project. That's capital investment of $76 million. It's a federally run project in partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I was testifying on it in House Corrections and Institutions yesterday. And the news there is really good. So we're building a robust funding stack. We're achieving more advantageous match rates, and we're pursuing the project. And that's a really big demand on some of the engineers. Now, at the same time as all that's happening, after 2023, the Flood Safety Act happens. So we do get additional positions. So we're finally up to bench strength in that program. 9 positions in the program. 7 filled at this point. One of our project managers just left, which is a real bummer because he was doing a great job doing things like managing Waterbury Dam, contract procurement, and so forth. It's a really cool job. We'll replace it. I'm not worried about it. Engineering, on the other hand, is really hard to get. And I think if the GS folks were to talk about procurement of projects, they would talk about the difficulty in engineering capacity out there. It's hard for the state to compete with the private sector from a money perspective. But when we do get engineers, they're really like mission-driven people, and that's excellent. So in addition to managing the capital funds that come from the capital committees and the Waterbury Dam Spillway project, the team has also been super active up at Wrightsville, and you're going to be the first to hear this. On deck for signature by Commissioner Cinsigali or myself is an agreement with the Army Corps to begin the feasibility evaluation up there at Wrightsville to figure out how to improve the plumbing so that we can take more water out of it before the next flood. That's a really substantial, beneficial win. It took us almost 3 years to get the Corps to be ready to sign an agreement, the Army Corps of Engineers. And they're the ones with the capacity, like they have incredible engineering. And in the midst of all that, you might also have heard of, smaller dams that have risks imposed on them by natural conditions, like beavers building dams on top of state-owned dams, and the tensions that creates. So I think Hinman Pond in your district is one, Bristol Pond is another in your district, where there's these conflicts that the program has to deal with. As a result of Act 121, we were also tasked with a legislative study committee on emergency action planning and emergency operations deployment for when dams might fail. That was a priority of Representative Mahaly, and it's actually translated itself into a new bill with Mr. Mahaly and Representative Chapin on implementing pilot projects to help little towns know how to respond when a dam that's upstream of them might fail. And it's an important piece of work. So the dam safety team carried forward, I helped start it, and then that project manager guy finished it for me. The dam safety emergency operation planning study committee that happened over the course of the last 18 months. And you all are aware of Green River Reservoir, which the program received one-time funds and was tasked with implementing a feasibility evaluation and an assessment of what it would mean for the state to own Green River Reservoir. And they just put a fine point on it. I'm not, because I feel like I need to defend the teams a little bit, right? That report was required to be privileged because it contains essentially critical, national scale critical energy information, right, that you can't share. The actual report is 800 pages long of highly technical information. It was led by our engineer, Andrew Samsell is his name. He did an amazing job. This guy's so quiet and confident. And took that and turned it into the 20-page legislative report with options that you all have received. That'll happen during the summer. And in the meantime, the program is also issuing dam orders, which are essentially permits for the reconstruction of dams or the construction of new dams, say a snowmaking pond or something like that. So those people have a lot going on, and at the same time, they have been, advancing the rulemaking. So here's the schedule for the rulemaking. They're being drafted now, internally being reviewed through March. We are planning stakeholder groups. We did stakeholder groups in phase 1, really robust stakeholder groups, dam owners, regulated dams, power dams, environmental advocates, all of that. That's planned for April. We're going to do a peer review. We did that with the phase 1 rules by the National Association of Dam Safety Operators. That's our National Dam Safety Chief Engineer organization, right? This is service they provide, and we will subject the phase 2 rules to their peer review, which is great. It's done suspenders. And we anticipate public meetings for July, and then I said ICAR in summer, so ICAR anticipated September, and then that sets the process going. So we would like to get there somewhere between December and March of the coming year. Last year, it's probably up there somewhere. There's a bill that ended up getting stuck to the wall up there, and it had some date amendments for this rulemaking. We didn't even. We figured there was no point in asking you for any more time. We're just gonna put our foot down on the accelerator pedal and get it done as best we can. So that's what the program has been up to. I can also, if you wish, let you know a little bit about the engagement that the program had with the auditor's office over the past few weeks. But
Just weeks.
yes,
Recent,
yes,
okay.
I'd be happy to let you know about that, but it kind of, I mean, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what the program is doing. So you tell me if you want to hear about it, I'll tell you about it. If not, no big deal.
Did see some memo, but, yeah, that would be helpful. That would be great.
Okay. So every year, as a follow-up to an audit, the auditor's office, and they have, I forget the gentleman's name. They had 2 auditors doing the audit. They're excellent, super professional people, like really fair, really clear. I need this to prove that. It's good. I've been through 5 or 6 audits with the auditor, so I really appreciate that the team does a very nice job there. And every year, they send out a letter and they say, well, this is what your management letter said. This is what our recommendations are. How you doing on these? So every year we respond to that. So in September, on the 26th of September of this year, we provided the 3-year follow-up. I have all these documents. If you would like them, I'm happy to file them, but I have them all. We received a number of questions based on that, which were answered on November 4th. On the 25th of November, they were asking more about the phase 2 rules, so we sent the rulemaking schedule, the complete rulemaking schedule to them, a Gantt chart. Again, I can show it to you if you want, but I walked through it verbally. On New Year's Day, the chief dam safety engineer, Ben Green, had a call with the auditor's staff to address a number of really specific questions. I have them, I'm not gonna recast them all to you. But we had a call on New Year's Eve, with the auditor's office. And on the 5th, we sent 2 further documents to them, an updated rule schedule and also a dam safety program staffing assessment, which they had asked about. So that NASDO organization kind of has model staffing models for how a dam safety program should be structured based on the portfolio of dams, the amount of money and all that. And so we provided that. So our last contact with the auditor's office was the 5th of January. I appreciate their engagement very much. They do good things. They look at the law. You're supposed to do this. They ask questions about how you do it. We answer the best we can. You all, especially those of you who live on downstream of flood control facilities, do sleep better because Mr. Green is doing his job. He is incredible. He really is. But, you know, as I said, we were a little surprised by the letter. That's why Secretary Moore felt compelled to respond. But this is all the work we've been doing in the interim. So that's what I'd like to offer you about that.
Kind of questions, but, Senator Williams, no, you go, Senator Williams.
Phase 2, affects everything downstream, thinking of, the private dam owners. Any ideas, when they're gonna know what they have to do, or do they already know it?
Well, so that's part of the outreach and why it's important to actually take a little bit of time to do that outreach. One of the things the program was really good about in phase 1 was not only working with stakeholders, but sending notification to every owner of every dam. They're required to register with us. They actually have fees that they pay every year. They're nominal unless you have a high hazard dam, in which case it's $1,000 a year. And in exchange for that, they receive services from the program in terms of inspections. So we know all the owners. So we know where they are, we know who they are, and we can contact them directly. And so when Ben says public meeting in July, what he means is we're going to send letters to everybody. We're going to let people know and make ourselves available so that folks understand. These are big, these are consequential to owners of dams. It is not cheap to own a piece of infrastructure like that, especially one that poses risk to downstream landowners.
Is there any, because I know I've had a couple of dam owners reach out to me. Public-private partnership, funding grants that are available. Is that gonna be, I know they're involved, they're looking right now for
Yeah.
grants to do the work.
Yeah. So as part of Act 121, one of the provisions of Act 121 was the passage of a revision to what had been the emergency unsafe dams loan fund, which had a nominal amount of money, I think $800,000 sat in there for many years. On the tail end of 2023, we used some of it to help an owner in Williamstown, very low income Vermonter with the dam on their property, get it dewatered. We basically issued a forgivable loan to them to get that work done. Act 121 revised the authority around that to give us the authority to make loans to either remove or restore dams. And as part of that policy, there's some requirements around, if you're going to restore a dam, there's some requirements around the assessment of alternatives, including whether it would be safer and less expensive for that dam not to be there versus be there. So there is that fund is capitalized with $4.5 million. Part of this rulemaking package is the rules for accessing the fund for either removal actions or restoration actions that are non-emergency. If there's an emergency, if your constituent has a dam and it's failing, like the Tenny Brook in downtown Rutland, when the fire chief dealt with that, we can put those dollars to work immediately for that.
So that fund has $4.5 million in it. When was it capitalized with that?
The end of 2023 session, so fiscal 24.
And you haven't spent any of it yet?
No.
Because you're waiting on the rules. You're
Yeah,
waiting.
and there hasn't been an emergency situation that required us to pull.
I thought it was for non-emergency situations. I thought you just said non-emergency.
It's for both. So in order to use it for non-emergency situations, the Act 121 requires that we incorporate into rule provisions for access. For
Okay.
emergency, we could access it at any time.
Okay, so I think I recall last session testimony about your rule situation and timeline. And didn't we extend some of the deadlines for these things? And
It was an extension, maybe it was last session.
yeah, last session,
Yeah.
we did it.
Right.
And I think it was till September.
I should have looked to see what the current due date is. We're obviously past it
Yeah,
for the reasons I just articulated.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it does feel a little deja vu here and concerning. I mean, the whole like communication stuff aside. If I mean, last session, you told us you don't have enough staff, can't do this because you don't have enough staff. This session, I'm hearing you've been fully staffed for a while. But you're still not on track to do the rules, even in the extended rulemaking timeline. And so I find that pretty concerning. And there's $4.5 million sitting in a fund that we could have been using that we can't use until you have the rules. So while I appreciate that you have been doing something and but you're not on track. And I guess with all the stuff you said, I didn't hear enough to convince me that there's not enough of an excuse. You should be more on track. You have the staff, you have the money, you had an extended deadline, and you're still coming back to us a year later and saying, oh, sorry, we're not doing it. We haven't done it.
I would like to invite you to visit Waterbury Dam with Mr. Green and have a tour of the facility to understand the magnitude of infrastructure that he manages on our behalf.
I hear that, but this is about the rules you need to make in order to run the entire program for the state.
And it's about prioritization of resources to protect the public safety of Vermonters. If you are right, and I'm not disagreeing, but that team has a very wide portfolio of work and is finally at capacity now. We have the schedule in front of you that's the best that the program can do, and we're going to do it. But and I will take any hit that you like in terms of
I just,
disappointment over pace. That said, I can't speak highly enough of what they do when they respond to something that's failing
I hear
or
that.
an owner that needs help.
I hear that, but I recall a conversation, multiple conversations in this room and conversations with you out in the hall last year. Do you need staff? Do you need more things in order to stay on track for this? We extended the deadline. If you needed more time last year and more staff and more resources. We were game for that conversation. We had that conversation last year and it's still not done. Or still not on track, so maybe the answers you provided last year were not adequate, I don't know, but.
There's a bill on the wall behind you that had a date extension that didn't end up happening. And I did not ask to revisit those as part of Bill H 632, which is our municipal amendments. Because I would prefer to put the energy into the team just moving these rules forward. So you're right, we haven't gotten them done, and we will. And at the same time, that team is also going to do amazing work protecting public safety.
I totally hear that, I just want to be able to, when you come in here and say, we're gonna get this done by this time, we don't need more staff, we don't need more money, which is what you said last year. That was my recollection.
Mhm.
And then you're coming back this year and saying, actually, we couldn't get them done in the amount of time. I wanna have trust in you and your department and the agency, and that's where I'm, it feels like you told us one thing last year, now you're like, well, actually.
I'd like to look at, I'd love to, I can't remember the bill number, but look up the date that's in that bill number and see what it was we were asking for. Because we
But
may
I
have been
thought we
asking,
did extend it.
he didn't. The bill got, there were other things that caused that remaining piece of the bill to stay on the wall. And instead of asking for more time, I just figured I'd come in here and tell you what we've been doing.
Okay, so
and our
we didn't extend, I remember having that
two, like,
conversation, so if we did
2
not.
to 3 years ago. The dates were
Okay, so
extended.
last session we did not,
Last year we did.
okay, that's what I recall that we did, but that bill never got over the finish line, so I apologize, because that's what I was recalling. I wasn't here 2 to 3 years ago, I wasn't in this room 2 to 3 years ago. But the conversation I remember having was about extending those dates.
Mhm.
And I remember asking you, do you need more staff, do you need more money, and your answer was no. So if we didn't actually end up extending the dates, I stand corrected.
We're gonna get it done.
Okay, well, I just wanna I hear you that you're trying to prioritize more. Like dangerous situations, more priority situations, but. To have it be this long without the rules is not acceptable.
So I can offer that, so I'm looking at a email from the auditor. With the dates, so the legislature initially required DEC to adopt these rules by July 2022. But granted extensions first to July 24 and then to July 25. And last year ANR testified that they would adopt rules in 26. And now I think from the timeline you're describing, it's realistically, we're looking at 27.
We're in
Because you're
26 right now,
Right.
they're going to ICAR this summer, so
Oh, okay, so
I call that 26.
fair enough, as opposed to like, I guess I was thinking like the adoption, the end of the process being 27, but if we're filing them in 26. I have one additional thought to Senator Hardy's comments. One, because I'm trying to think of like solutions, because one of the possibilities that could happen is that I'm very much hoping that we have no major flooding this summer, right? Like that would be amazing.
July 10th, 2026.
If that does happen, and then rightfully your staff is. Your attention is drawn to doing these other things. I'm wondering about the usefulness of. Contracting out the service to get these finalized. I don't know if that's realistic, but just dedicating some, limited service or contract money or something to say, this is your only job. So that if or when floods come, that they are not pulled into the massive effort to revisit. Would something like that be useful?
The team did look into contracting,
Okay,
they did,
yeah,
have not read into why
why?
it was not taken as an option, but,
If
it's
that-
close.
Okay, I mean, if that's something that, because I will just say that is something that I would push for on appropriations to get it done, if that is something that would ensure that it happens, especially in the light of other work needing to continue. And fully respect that is important and needs to happen also. So just want to offer that.
Okay,
I
can report back.
Okay, sure, that'd be great. And then another thought, and it sounds like this is not necessary, but especially with rules, taking a long time, and I hear you that it is a major set of rules to put together. Is that relatively accurate?
Yes.
That it's a big lift to put this together. Wondering. Now, I think I'm like backing away from my own thinking, but just in the spirit of like, I'm just trying to think out loud. Does it make sense to say, well, we have this chunk of it done, and so let's get this part done that we think is complete, and we're still working on these other parts.
That could be a possibility, but I'm gonna obviously ask my team, if they're not already listening online right
Yeah.
now. Ask my team to, review this section of our conversation and give me some feedback on it.
And I hesitate to even bring that up because I want the whole rules, like I want all of it.
Oh, I get it.
But I also want progress, so. Feeling that tension. Yes.
You mentioned Tenny Brook, is that part of their roads flow restoration plan? The permit?
Tenny is not, I don't believe Tenny was stormwater impaired. It's kind of been riding on the edge, right? But, that project wasn't. I mean, that was the failure on Tenny Brook was like an imminent dam failure that your fire chief, along with Ben Green, did an amazing piece of work. Storyline on that, this was Halloween of 2021, and big rainstorm. The program had been already keeping track of this particular dam. The fire chief noticed movement in one of the abutments, called up Ben. He went down there, they conferred and realized that this thing was sort of at imminent failure. Came back, tried to figure out how to get the dam safety unsafe loan fund activated to help the owner, who had very few resources like zero. Meanwhile, the storm intensified and the thing went and nearly failed. So they got yellow machines out there. The city took care of it. I think we did some reimbursement post hoc. The city went out there with the dam safety program. As they started to knock the thing down, one of the apartments literally swung out and began to fail in real time while they were remediating this dam. So it was not a high hazard class dam, meaning that wasn't going to cause imminent failure, but there was roads downstream, culverts, all of that stuff that,
That was in the town too. The dam is actually in Rock Town.
in town, okay. Anyway, sorry, just a sidebar, but
Yeah. Well, thank you. Any other thoughts or comments on this aspect?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you. And we do appreciate the work that that team is doing. So Please
And
pass that
I
on
want
as
to
well.
be clear, I appreciate the work the auditor does, to hold folks to account, but that's okay. That's what, we're all public servants here and that's what we do, so.
Okay.
Real quick and go.
Okay,
Okay, and we only have. Minutes, 10 minutes,
my time is yours, whatever you.
well,
like to
I'm
chat.
wondering, because I would love to have more of an opportunity to talk, because it is worth hearing you on 213.
Mhm.
The bell's gonna start ringing before 11:30. How fast or short as your?
I can give you a real highlight on 213.
Okay.
If you'd like, you know, we could probably give you 5 minutes on 213, that would be helpful.
Okay, that would be great.
Can I invite Mr. Redmond to join me?
Sure,
Great.
yes.
So H 213, sorry, he's, oh, Senate. Senate 213, two aspects to it, right? So it's fundamentally, you know, a decision as to whether or not to implement smart metering, and when a municipality does implement smart metering, whether a landowner can opt out of smart metering and whether they should incur a cost associated with that. DEC has no position one way or another on that. That is it's sort of a transaction that happens between the water supplier, whether it's the municipality or the public water system, and its ratepayers. That said, and Brian can tell you why, metering is good. The information is good. The information from smart metering, I think, is slightly better than the information from standard meters, because you see a time limits of flow and when the water is used and things like that. And then the other piece is cyber infrastructure protections for public water suppliers. So here, what I've learned, and I'll turn it over to Brian, is that the state, under the Agency of Digital Services, has a committee in place right now looking at cyber infrastructure protections or cyber protections for all sectors of infrastructure. DEC does not yet have the capacity, the understanding of cyber to tell water suppliers what kind of cyber protections they need to put in place. Nor frankly, do we have the technical expertise in-house to even like guide that. Furthermore, that EPA is not yet providing its guidance to primacy states, so states that implement the Safe Drinking Water Act requirements on what states are supposed to tell their regulated public entities to do cyber-wise. So we're feeling a little bit, it's important, cyber protection is important. Maybe go talk to the folks in Virginia about that with the water plant sometime. And I think we need some help from ADS before we would know what to promulgate, and I think we're not quite there yet. And let me turn it over to you to add some more flavor to that.
For the record, Brian Redmond, Director of Drinking Water and Groundwater Protection Division. I think that pretty well summarizes it. I think my chief recommendation here is to hear from the Agency of Digital Services and the work that the Cybersecurity Advisory Council is engaged in, but again, looking at it across all critical infrastructure sectors, with a specific representative for the water sector. I think you all heard from Joe Duncan, who's the general manager for Champlain Water Districts, is the industry rep for the water sector on the advisory council. In my understanding, in consultation with ADS, this work is moving forward as we speak. And they're working through their strategic plan, both holistically, but also sector specific. So I think our chief recommendation is to make sure that they are consulted as part of this. There's some concern about singling out the water sector here, the ability for ANR to really make meaningful cybersecurity guidance, and the municipalities to adequately receive that guidance and be able to react to that guidance. They're not all created equal in terms of public water systems. There's 402 currently public water systems in the state. And we've gone through a process to kind of tier them based on cyber risk. And we've done that in consultation with the advisory council and are rolling out a program to start working with the water systems on their cyber preparedness and their cyber hygiene. So it's not that there's no work happening in this arena, it's very much happening. I think I would just like the opportunity to work with the Agency of Digital Services and the Cyber Advisory Council. If these portions of the bill move forward in this form, to at least be able to suggest some language. I'll stop there.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks. So the most recent version of the bill is draft 1.1, I think. And it's, well, actually, because it should. I don't know why it's 1.1 of it with a different name. Dated 2/5/26, I believe.
Yep, absolutely.
There's only one paragraph that's relevant, I think. And I did send it to the Secretary of ADS to get her feedback on it, and I haven't heard back from her. I think she was checking with folks. And it was mostly just, you know, the desire to keep cybersecurity sort of on the table or like in the hearts and minds of people who are dealing with this without being overly prescriptive. So I mean, I'm very open to suggestions. I just haven't heard back from her about what her agency wants. And the reason it has A&R as in the driver's seat is because you're all the ones that issue the permits. So that's what our legal counsel suggested.
We're very much involved and we have a role to play. This is a very back of the operations type
Yeah.
program, not front of the
Yeah.
operations. And that's helpful and tend to know, and I can go back to the Agency of Digital Services and consult with Secretary Hughes and Sean Naylor, who's the CAC.
Okay.
We have a very open line of communication, a lot of engagement happening around this. And if the intent is to keep it on the table in some way, I can consult with them and see if we can offer some language if that's appropriate.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other thoughts or questions on this? Okay,